Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 25th episode of Chat with Melisa. Today, I'm beyond thrilled to have a distinguished guest with me on Chat with Melisa, the AI-DU evangelist at UiPath, George Roth. George, it's an honor to share this milestone episode of Chat with Melisa with someone who brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the table. Firstly, I want to thank you for taking the time and welcome to this episode of Chat with Melisa.
Thank you, Melisa. First of all, congratulations. You had 25 episodes. That's not easy to do. So I am glad that I'm here on the 25th one. This is a pretty nice number. So I am glad to share my experience and my good things and bad things about document processing. So I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for your kind words, George. And thank you. I'm eager to dive into the world of document processing and the impact of generative AI in this field. So let's get started. Let's begin with the origin. I'm eager to dive into the intriguing story of UiPath's acquisition of Intelligent Document Understanding Platform from Recognos Romania way back in 2018. Can you tell us more about the beginnings of this collaboration and walk us through the architectural aspects?
Sure. First of all, you see the Golden Gate Bridge behind me. I don't have a house with a view there, but I am located in the Bay Area. It's just a picture. I actually live in Los Gatos, California. Everybody knows Los Gatos because Netflix was created here. I am more south of San Francisco and south of Silicon Valley, actually close to San Jose for people who know the area. Yeah, I mean, the intelligent document processing platform that was created by my previous company, it was a fantastic outcome for that platform that it was acquired by UiPath in 2018. Actually, it's an interesting history. Of course, we were a little bit early with our technology because at that time there was no generative AI. I mean, NLP was still a very complicated domain. The natural language processing in the 2000s started be totally different than like it is right now. There were a lot of linguists involved. Companies were providing technology which were associated with computational linguistics. So it was pretty complicated. And for people who know about ontologies and RDF and actually was an idea that the Web 2.0 will be the semantic web, which meant that you started to deal with the meaning of the content, not only syntactically with keywords, but try to look at the meaning of the content, and that was the semantic web. Another big technology which was coming, it was born actually in probably 1998 in a commercial way, was the OCR. Everybody talks about OCR. And my previous company, basically, I was very lucky to get really involved in this business of the data. That meant that I was fascinated by the fact how companies are selling data and how important it is to sell this data. And I was, first of all, dealing with financial data. And the main problem was that, for example, for a stock exchange, when you have to have the prices for the stocks, for the investment companies who need to trade based on that, they have to know the history of the prices and so on. Mm-hmm. The problem is that you had to extract this data from different type of documents. And this could be, at that time, they were even emails. Email already existed, or newspaper articles, or they were data vendors. Reuters, for example, it's known. Probably the first data vendor in the world was Reuters. and they were selling financial data. But it was a big problem because you had all these documents and you had to extract fields from them. And the documents were not standard. Some of them were standard, but for example, for people who are working in banking, they know that exists the SWIFT format for financial data in general, which had like tags and data in them. But if you talk about for example, a prospectus of an asset which is traded on a stock exchange, that's a super complicated document which can have hundreds of pages, and there is no standard of the way how these are done. So this was a big challenge, and at my previous company, I started to like this a lot, and I always loved challenges. And we tried to solve a problem. The first problem that we tried to solve was to create a mutual fund database for mutual funds in the United States. There are approximately 8,000 mutual funds in United States, and they had these prospectuses, and every mutual fund had about 250 fields which were important in calculations for the companies who are investing in these mutual funds. So that's why basically we developed this, and we actually realized that it's impossible for a company to create a technology or to claim the fact that they can extract data from every document in the world. That's just sales. In reality, there is no such solution. And that's why we had, I think, the most important thing of our platform, it was the architecture. And this was actually started to be created in 2012. And it took about 6 years until we went to 2018. And the key was the pluggable architecture. So we realized that this process should be broken up in a few processes, which the first we call digitization. Now these are common knowledge, but at that time it wasn't like this. The companies were selling software, was not like different modules. So was the digitization, which means conversion from an image, for example, and using OCR converting in digital content. Then you had the classification to determine what type of documents are. Then it had the extraction, where you had something called a taxonomy, which is the list of fields that you are interested in. And of course, this human in the loop, we didn't call it like that, but human in the loop was essential because these were these data processors that we had at my previous company who had to be involved. And if they couldn't find a field or something that they were supposed to extract, or the field was not correct based on certain criteria, they had to intervene and do it in manual way. Of course, the technology was super complicated, but we came out with this pluggable concept that to be able to use technologies offered by other companies to process certain files, and not only at certain files, to be able to come out with different methods at field level. And this is the pluggable architecture, which was the basis for the UiPath document understanding solution. Of course, it took a few years after they acquired our technology, UiPath acquired our technology. It took about, in my opinion, 3 years, 3 years to make it really at where it is right now, which we are proud that it's one of the best technologies in the world.
Wow, that was an interesting story. And it is for sure that this integration and collaboration has been crucial for the transformative development and the history of UiPath. Okay, moving forward, let's talk about the development due to generative AI. As an AI evangelist, you have seen the evolution of document processing and the impact of generative AI in this field. Can you talk about some key trends or new features that you find most exciting or promising in this space? And how do you think these are influencing the way organizations approach document automation?
So, as I mentioned before, obvious NLP is essential. Natural language processor is essential in a document understanding, how we call it, or we call it intelligent document processing.
Yeah.
No, it's essential, is the technology. And the previous attempt to solve this problem was through semantic technology. This was too complicated. The NLP was very complicated. You had to write scripts, and it wasn't. It was a technology which could be used on a very large scale for different reasons. And then what happened, in my opinion, with this, people even didn't know that something like this is possible. It's actually the big leap was how to convert from this text, which is a way how the humans communicate, in something that the computer will communicate with. And what knows the computer? The computer knows only numbers and digits. They don't understand. The computer doesn't understand by initial setup, doesn't understand the text because it deals with numbers, no, zero ones, ultimately with codes. And this was, I think, something big. It took me a few months to start to really understand how is this even philosophically possible to have a text to convert it in numbers and then put together text in different languages. It doesn't matter in what language, and how, OpenAI did it. ChatGPT came out as only the front end, which showed the humanity, basically what can be done with this technology. But behind the scenes, it's only the tip of the iceberg. ChatGPT, it's just the UX, the way how you communicate. But behind the scenes, what happened, basically, it converted all these text in numbers which makes absolutely no sense for a human, but makes a lot of calculations possible for the computer. And then, for example, in NLP, a big problem was find the similarity, semantic similarity between two pieces of text, for example. And of course, in languages, it's super important. There was no way to compare an English text with a Chinese text, for example, and to find out if it's the same thing. You had to do translation. But now, if you convert everything in the numbers don't have languages. So the whole thing, it's reduced to big calculations between these vectors, which can have different dimensions based on what technology is used. And I think this was the big change. And of course, the development of the hardware, and this actually is reflected in the fact that this super sophisticated hardware, which allows you to do these super speedy calculations, it's available only for a few providers. And these are the big cloud providers which have these servers, because if not, in order to ask a question from a big model like this, you would have to wait a day, and nobody has time a day. But you will find these supercomputers offered by the big cloud providers, by the Microsofts, by the Google, by NVIDIA. NVIDIA actually provides the basic technology too. And through this, you find some SLAs which are acceptable. So this big leap of generative AI, it's actually made NLP totally democratized. People started to use NLP. I am talking about vector databases and all these things. But this approach made this technology be able to bring a lot of help in all these big problems, which was to classify and extract data from documents. And it's not as simple as it looks. I mean, even if where you see companies who say, oh, now we can read any document, it's not as simple, because, for example, there is these models have the restriction of dealing with very big pieces of text. So you have to split up the text in certain chunks, and this is called chunking. And that's not in the, I mean, depending how you do that, that has an effect on the results of your processing of the documents. So the thing is that through this technology and this combined with machine learning, so the machine learning actually reduced the necessity to program these rules of a classification or extraction, and how they say the labeling actually is the new programming. So you don't write a rule how to extract the value for a field from a document. You basically have to just show the system, the AI. It's almost like you are a teacher and the AI is actually your student. And then you have to show them examples. He said, look, this is an invoice. This is the company name, the issuer name, or this is the price, or this is the address. And you start showing them through labeling process. And this basically, the labeling became the new programming. So you have to train this machine learning stuff. And then, of course, the generative AI will not always help you to extract. You still have to have behind. So, for example, ChatGPT, OpenAI's LLM, actually read a lot of invoices, and that's why they know how to extract, but they still cannot extract everything. But the point is that labeling became actually the bottleneck of all these document understanding processes, because you had to label data, and especially for the providers of this technology to provide pre-trained models, it's a problem because you have to find data, and it's not easy to find data because of course there is this new trend of synthetic data and so on, but the biggest problem is it's labeling in order to fine-tune these models. We call these models specialized AI at UiPath. So these are specific models trained for certain documents. We provide some pre-trained models, but if you want to use other for other documents and so, definitely you have to do your own specialized models.
Thank you for sharing your insights, George. They were truly enlightening. Let's talk a little bit about active learning. Can you tell us more about what active learning is, its advantages, specifically in the context of document understanding and communications mining? UiPath is often recognized as a leader in integrating active learning. Can you tell us what sets it apart?
Definitely. I just forgot to say something. So if you think about intelligent document processing with all these phases of digitization, classification, extraction, think about the new technology, the new kid on the block is called RAG, which came after generative AI, which is the Retrieval Augmented Generation. So what that means that you use generative AI, but still, in order, for example, let's assume you put a question to a system. I want to see the average of the price for this product in all our invoices. Well, in order to solve this problem, to answer this question using RAG, don't forget that you have to go through all the invoices and extract that data. I mean, those invoices are stored somewhere. I mean, probably the invoice is a trivial example, but this could be like a question, give me the average fine that I have to pay for all the contracts where I am late with my payments or something like that. I mean, to answer this question, I still have to go into these documents and extract the data. And the document understanding is hidden in the RAG. Most of the RAG technology provider, they are just telling you, oh yeah, we take the documents and we extract the fields from them. Well, that extract fields it actually hides a call to some document understanding system which does this extraction. But to come back to the active learning, as I said, actually labeling is the new programming. And if you do labeling without caution, this becomes the bottleneck in implementing these processes due to the high cost. I mean, it's very, very costly. You have to label a lot of documents. And first of all, you need to pay people who are doing that. And depending on the skill required for these people. So one is to label an invoice. It's pretty easy to teach somebody. But if you start looking into legal documents where you have to read these legalese, which is different from English, for example, to label different things and to find the meaning of certain sentences, you pay a lot because you have to pay lawyers to do that. So then basically the active learning is a technique, and UiPath became the master in this. As far as we know, is the only company who really took this into this, brought it in the platform at like a center point of our labeling process. And what active learning means is basically use the AI in order to help the labelers what to label and when to label. So if you think about, if you have a lot of documents that you have to label, let the system do an initial labeling, because there is a training of a LLM model who already was trained on all kinds of models in general way, to let the system to do this labeling. And then after the system did the labeling, bring the human in for those documents or messages for which you couldn't find the right labeling. You couldn't, the system got confused and couldn't know exactly how to classify or how to extract something. And that's why when active learning, it's almost like your AI buddy, labeling buddy, who tells you, okay, now label this, and also tells you, watch out, I found this message or I found this document and I don't have enough information. You didn't give me similar things labeled before. Better do more on this, because if not, I am very biased because I wasn't trained enough into that. So that's why active learning actually optimizes the labeling process by indicating what to label and when to label. And in this way, the data labelers are actually working with the system. You can start with the system to use a system like this without the model being fully trained. But while you are working with human in the loop, the human's activity is directed by the AI in order to optimize the labeling process by reducing time and cost.
Wow, that was an interesting piece of information on active learning. Thank you for sharing your perspectives. Next, let's talk about human AI collaboration. As generative AI becomes more prevalent in the field of document processing, how do you envision the collaboration between humans and AI? And how do you think organizations can strike the right balance to leverage the strengths of both?
The point is, you saw in there is a in the world, people are talking a lot about that AI will actually replace humans and stuff, which is not true. AI will replace activities for humans which take a lot of their time, and activities which basically stops the human to be creative because they have to spend time in all kinds of boring stuff. So basically the idea is AI in the future and in document processing too should become invisible. And one of my colleagues at UiPath defined this invisible AI concept. I mean, AI will be there with you, not only in document processing, on everything. But you will not know that exists. That's why it's your invisible AI assistant will be near you and will help you. In the IDP, in IDP, so document processing, I use these two terms interchangeable, although it means a little bit different. But in this, it's how we use at UiPath, for example, generative AI. We use it in two ways. And one is basically in validation. So basically, after we do extraction, and we basically call a generative AI method also to do the extraction. And if the two results are the same, this increases a lot the probability that the results is basically correct. And how the human in the loop will always be involved, because every extraction, you have to have a measurement when you use AI, because AI is not a deterministic method of solving problem. It's always probabilistic. And then you can set up thresholds, which gives you confidence that what the AI said or what the AI did, it is good enough in order to trust it. So this is, you set up this threshold, and actually the human will be always there to intervene if the AI did something and the confidence threshold is below this number. And that's the human will always be in the loop. And UiPath, it's one of the masters in creating this platform with human in the loop. I want to give you an example which will tell you that, in my opinion, human will always be in the loop. It's no way that somebody will solve it. And we confronted this at my previous company, and even now, and everybody who works with document understanding knows this problem. The table extractors. The table extractor sounds a simple thing, that you have to extract data from a table, but due to the inventivity and I would say the laziness of many creators of tables, they are too lazy to create a table in a way how put the information on one column. They are lazy, or for restriction because of their legacy system, they don't want to add new columns, and they start to combine different apples and oranges in a cell. And if you do that, it doesn't, I mean, it's illogical. And they start writing 3-4 lines of text there, which explains something about another column. So that's why I say in the table extractor, I think that humans will always be in the loop, because nobody will ever can say that, look, I have a table extractor which solves everything.
That's right. Thank you for that example on table extractors. It brings the concept to life, and it is reassuring to hear that although the efforts may be reduced, but human involvement still remains a critical factor. Okay, moving forward, let's talk about the vision in the future of DU. How do you envision the future landscape of document understanding evolving with the RAG technology?
Yeah, I mean, the one of the big problems with DU is that DU is being more commoditized. So now I remember when I started in 2018, when I looked, I evaluated about 100 companies who were doing document understanding, actually intelligent document processing. So I spoke to them. Well, from them, I don't know how many are still in business, very few. Why? Because due to this commodity, the document understanding becomes almost like a commodity. The cost is being reduced a lot. So not too many companies will afford to offer this, because think about, you have to process a lot of invoices in order to make money. If you take 10 cents per invoice, you need a lot of invoices. Yeah. Yes. So that's why, in my opinion, that's a big challenge. But with the new technology, the future definitely will be in the sense that the document understanding will be done in combination with generative AI, which will be used as one of the methods to extract these. Also will be used in validation. And not only that, the biggest thing what will happen and will still be very important to make these documents actionable in the sense that it's people will not want to get a software who will extract some data from the documents from an invoice. They will want a software who basically solves the end-to-end process of processing an invoice, starting with getting the invoice and actually generating payment transactions or detecting errors in the invoice. So this is one. The second one, I think the documents will become almost like intelligent in the sense that you will be able to ask questions, the documents which you already can do, and not only questions about a document, like for example, you get an invoice and you go to the invoice and you with your AI assistant you ask the AI assistant, please let me know what is the main difference between this invoice and what I pay for a different vendor. Well, this question, this will be the future. The document is just a start of a conversation. And through the AI and integrating your document in your document ecosystem and data ecosystem of the enterprise, you will always be able to process documents and make them actionable and helping your business processes to be based on very actual and correct data. Another piece which people are not talking too much about yet is the creation of the documents. I mean, as you have analysis of the documents, you have synthesis of documents. So, for example, creating contracts, you will be able, I mean, you already, there are software for this, is to create these documents from pieces of documents that you put together, which are collected from different rules and from different data silos that you have in the enterprise, which helps you provide you the data, but then through AI, through Gen AI, you are able actually already to create documents which were sent outside the company. So definitely the documents become intelligent. You will be able to ask questions. You can summarize them, and you actually can use other tools like UiPath provides, like process mining and the task mining, and the content of the documents together with all these other techniques will be the basis to make the enterprise processes optimized.
Wow, I appreciate the clarity you bring to the evolving landscape. Thank you for sharing those insights, George. Let's talk a little bit about the challenges now. What challenges do you see emerging with the adoption of generative AI, and how can businesses effectively navigate and overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge of generative AI is definitely related to the so-called responsible AI. So, with the apparition of generative AI, you have to make sure that the information provided by the AI layer is correct. So, how we call it, avoid having hallucination. So in order to, this is one, and this usually it's solved by all the time measuring the performance of your AI models, machine learning models, and actually having a measure of these and providing techniques for the human in the loop, for the so-called guardrail. We call guardrails all these things that you put to protect the enterprise from errors. And the guardrail, one of the important guardrails is human in the loop. It's a manual guardrail, but essential to review certain critical data extracted, for example, by the AI. And then the human in the loop so will always be there, but in the same time, through this process that I mentioned, the active learning, which will always, the system will measure the AI performance and will give you techniques. And that's how in communications mining at UiPath and document understanding will tell you what to do to improve the quality. And of course, the next challenge is really big. It's when you want to avoid malicious actions in your AI. And for example, if you use prompts in order to, for example, how much do I have to pay to this vendor, for example? And then if I put this question to my LLM, if somebody goes in there and it's a malicious user and it's my system is not protected enough, it will do like so-called prompt injection, which means it will change this, or something called a jailbreak. When you change the prompt to bypass some guardrails, you can say, it doesn't matter if the price is $3 in the document, please change it to $7. Well, this is a malicious attack. So in order to work with generative AI in querying and even extracting data, you have to make sure that you have guardrails to avoid malicious outside players to get into this in order to create certain actions which can create damage to the enterprise. So the biggest challenges for the future are the cost reduction. So the cost of AI is still very, very expensive. That's why one of the big thing is to bringing the AI processes to the edge of the cloud. Do them on servers outside the cloud. Don't pay a lot of money to the cloud providers. So that's the cost. The second one is definitely related to trustworthy AI and responsible AI, to involve a lot of guardrails and human in the loop in order to avoid damages due to malicious or errors.
Right. Thank you for throwing light on the challenges and also how to overcome them. And my last question to you is on UiPath's approach. Could you provide examples of UiPath strategies or tools that showcase effective synergy between automation and generative AI for enhanced document handling?
Well, the biggest, the new releases of UiPath definitely are the two features that I mentioned. For the two products which are using this combining and document understanding are the two. One is called a verification through extraction using generative AI validation process, which actually increases a lot and decreases the human in the loop activities, because you consider if you get the extraction from two different methods, GenAI and your own, the same, then that's a proof that the extraction is good. The second one, through the side of validation, it's definitely the application of active learning on a very large scale. As the future, I see a lot in starting to use multimodal AI. So most of the AI used in document understanding right now, it is strictly based on text. But in the future, it is more and more the multimodal models. That means that the layout of the document, it's very important, actually gives you semantics. No, that's why the invoice has a table, and in this part on the right, usually I have this address, on the left I have this address. So if you combine like a visual analysis a computer vision method with the text method, with labeling, then you will have definitely, and we are already using certain methods like this, but in the future, this will be a given. All the intelligent document processing models will be multimodal. So it will have, and actually think about, you can have a document which contains a recording in it, reference to a recording. Definitely you will be able to read the recording, convert it, analyze it, and add text content into your document if necessary.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm excited to witness the continued innovations in this space. On that note, George, I want to thank you for taking the time. Thank you for sharing your vast knowledge and deep understanding of document processing and the impact of generative AI in this field. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
So viewers, we hope you enjoyed this conversation and found it inspiring, insightful, and filled with knowledge. To know more about UiPath's offerings, log into academy.uipath.com and stay inspired and stay tuned for more such exciting videos. Until then, happy automation and happy learning. Bye.